and welcome everyone to this session on Zero Trust Network Access. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how the corporate network is changing, how IT groups are grappling with these changes, and how we are responding with a solution for ZTNA to help out. Now, Zero Trust Network Access is a new product. It's a new solution category, and we're going to discuss why it's become important and what our particular answer to this product category is. So I thought we'd start with some traditional stuff. Well, no, not this kind of colorful tradition. I thought we'd start with this kind of tradition, the traditional network. It's a lot more fun, right? So this diagram hopefully is no stranger to anyone here. It really is just an illustration of your typical corporate network that's been the case for the last really couple of decades. It's dominated in the center by this secure corporate network that, of course, is protected at the perimeter with a firewall, just like a moat and wall around a castle. And it is, responsible for, access control, compliance, monitoring, and protecting all the traffic going in and out of that secure perimeter. Now, essentially, it operates on the basis that everything on the network is secure and trusted. I mean, when we were all going to the office, you needed some sort of physical security to even get on the network, a badge, code, a key, or something. And even when you were remote, you used VPN to access the network remotely that required your credentials. And then once you're on the network, you had pretty much access to everything, all the applications you needed. Could be a lot of them, whether you're in support, development, marketing, sales, finance, HR, IT, and you name it. They all of us have systems and applications that we need access to be productive. And those are, typically hosted in the cloud on AWS or some other cloud hosting infrastructure. Could be SaaS apps, could be even hosted in our data center or in the office on servers. They can be all over the place. I think at Sophos, someone told me we have 1,300 different applications that various departments and people use in the organization. 1,300. I just can't believe it. I mean, I can think of maybe a dozen that I use, but that's a lot. Of course, this all worked perfectly up until earlier this year. Now, there's a big change underway, as we all know, and we've all experienced it firsthand. Some interesting statistics, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, the US reported that 4.7 million workers were already working from home, at least part-time, as I said, before the pandemic. So this was already some momentum gained, was building around working from home, but that has obviously exploded recently with this Gartner survey they recently conducted worldwide. 88% of the organizations they talked to had either mandated working from home or highly encouraged employees working from home during the pandemic, which is, as you can imagine, 88% of organizations. That's just enormous. It's millions and millions of organizations. Now, what organizations have found since then, of course, is that, they can save money, right? $11,000 is how much a company can save annually for an employee that works just half time at home, which is a very appealing number, of course, but it's just one of the many benefits of a remote workforce. I mean, you and I both know as remote workers that you get benefits in terms of a shorter commute. I mean, my commute is from my bedroom to my office at home. It's a climb of some stairs, and your commute may be similar. And so we get more flexibility, the company saves money, it's a win-win. And so as we've seen, this work from home phenomenon is going to continue for many organizations. But unfortunately, cybercrime has really taken advantage of this situation. The FBI recently reported that the number of complaints they're getting to their cyber division is up to 4,000 a day, which is up 400%. I guess it was 1,000 previously, before the coronavirus outbreak. So Interpol is also seeing similar numbers, so it's common across jurisdictions. Cyber attacks are really on the increase, and they're targeting all kinds of different businesses, corporations, governments, infrastructure, you name it. Nobody is immune. And this is supported by our recently released annual threat report. If you haven't seen it, it just came out a couple of days ago. It has some excellent insights into the changes that have occurred in IT departments and the threat landscape over the last several months. In particular, it goes into depth on recent ransomware attacks and how they often leverage unprotected RDP services or remote desktop, to exploit the network and then move around. And this is, of course, one of the many applications and services that need better security. It's a perfect candidate for ZTNA, as we will see. But the bottom line is here that, this network transformation has recently created opportunities for hackers with, IT priorities being shifted, networks going through massive changes, and IT teams being more overloaded than ever. So the bottom line is really this means network security is more important than it ever has been. So what has transpired here is we now have this new type of network that's becoming more common. And it's the most obvious change you could see here is that, the majority of users are now working remotely, just like most of us. The IT departments are scrambling to adapt and roll out VPN infrastructure to support this massive shift, and some are even looking to ZTNA as an alternative. And in essence, of course, the perimeter's really changed. We still have our corporate network, and we still have some people that work in the office, as most organizations do, but it really has changed the dynamic. There is no longer just this concept of a moat and castle wall. That has extended outwards to wherever workers happen to be. And of course, application access is still critical. Everyone needs apps and access to them and their data to do their jobs effectively. Just now, we need to do that from everywhere. And so this new type of network presents a few challenges. As we discussed, organization and network data is undercoming, increased attacks. They're getting more creative. They're being more persistent. They're taking advantage of new, changes in the network, and then they're trying to get at this data and either encrypt it, ransom it, or steal it. And so securing applications and their data is becoming more important than ever. And then on top of all that, who can we really trust anymore? We're not doing physical security. You don't need a badge to get on the network. You are, have your credentials for VPN been stolen? Do we know? Can we trust that who's logging in as you on the network is actually you? So this is the challenges that organizations are facing. And I like to refer to this new world order as really the branch office of one. Are we working from home or are we living at work? I guess it's a bit of both, really. But you've got this, really this situation where one remote worker in their home can be anywhere, somewhere, really anywhere in the world. I love this photo. It's like an apartment series of complexes in Hong Kong where it's so dense you can't even see any sky. And it's okay for an IT department to manage a branch office of one. That's not bad. But what happens when you've got dozens or maybe hundreds or thousands of these new branch offices of one all over the world? It's quickly become a nightmare to connect, secure, onboard new staff. You do an M&A. Can you imagine? You've got a new whole organization you need to incorporate, and you've got all of a sudden another 100 or 1,000 branch offices of one to add to your workload. Then you've got employees leaving, and you've got to decommission these little branch offices. It's a nightmare for IT organizations. And so what you can, of course, correlate here is that VPN adoption has obviously exploded in recent months. Our own Sophos Connect has grown over like 10 times since the beginning of the year. I think we have a 1.4 million users connect through Sophos Connect to their XG firewall protected networks now. It's just enormous. And this is in line with other collaborative apps like Zoom, Teams. I mean, how much has that increased? Well, about 8, 9 times from earlier this year. Not really a surprise, right? And then in a recent survey conducted by Forrester, 80% of the IT decision makers were naturally caught completely off guard by this transformation. I mean, who would have seen this coming? Nobody. And so everyone was really unprepared and had to scramble and are in many ways still scrambling to support this sort of new world order. And of course, Gartner, being sort of the grandfather of the concept of zero trust, is been talking about the importance of identity, multi-factor authentication, and microsegmentation to protect applications and device compliance and the importance of that. They've been talking about the concept of zero trust for some time. And so, of course, it's not surprising that they're quick to point out that most organizations are now looking to zero trust to help solve some of these challenges. But why? Why is that? Why is there's this sudden interest in zero trust? What are the challenges with VPN? Why is that not a perfectly good solution? Well, I mean, VPN is fine, actually. It can be used. And as we know, 1.4 million of our customers are using it. So it's not unusable, but it does present some challenges. And it was really never designed for this kind of network where you're constantly connecting in millions of people every day, connecting into networks and it's designed to just give you broad access. Like you're on the network, you have access to everything. There's no granular control with VPN as to who can access what. And of course, VPN doesn't offer any granularity or any guarantee as to who is logging in. If your credentials get stolen, anyone can log in using your VPN credentials and get access to the network. So, of course, multi-factor authentication is important in helping with that, but it's a real challenge. Who can you trust? And then last but not least, VPN solutions are really difficult to set up and deploy, and roll out to new employees and decommission from employees that are leaving, especially when you have this hundreds or thousands of branch offices of one. It really becomes untenable. And we all know from using VPN firsthand that it's not the best user experience. It can be a pain. You've got to enter several passwords, you get multi-factor authentication. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Certs expire. It can be a little bit of a nightmare, and it's not the most transparent user experience, right? So there's lots of opportunities to improve this situation, and that's why many organizations these days are now doing this. They're searching for VPN alternatives. And perhaps if you've heard about ZTNA, you're even doing a search like this, learning more about ZTNA or how it compares to VPN and what the benefits are. So let's talk about that. So what does ZTNA stand for? Well, Zero Trust Network Access. And the concept of zero trust is really what it says on the tin, trust nothing, verify everything. There is no, with zero trust, this concept of I'm inside the network or inside the castle walls any longer. It's now you can be anywhere, you could be on any device, and we're going to make a decision as to whether you can access these applications based on who you are and your device health and compliance, and that will determine what you can do. And so in effect, each individual becomes their own perimeter, like their own little castle, and each one is assessed on its own merits for whether it can access important company resources. And you just can't assume that anything or anyone is trustworthy until it's been proven. And so at the most basic form, ZTNA is really about verifying the user, using multi-factor authentication is the best way, then validating the health of and compliance of the device. Is it enrolled in our program? Is it up to date? Is it properly protected with all the security it should have? Is it encrypted? All of that stuff. Does it meet all these requirements? And then using that information, the identity and the health, of the device to make a decision based on policy as to who can access what and what they can do with it. That's really ZTNA in a nutshell. Verify the user, validate the device they're using, and then discuss or determine what they can do given who they are and what they have. And so ZTNA is really a new way of enabling this remote workforce to access the applications they need securely from anywhere. We just need to identify them and verify the health of their device, and they're good to go. And so one great thing is applications can be accessed directly with this model, wherever they happen to be. The app can be in the cloud, it can be on the corporate server, it can be in a data center somewhere, doesn't matter. The trust engine protecting that application just does the validation and verification and allows access based on that policy. So this has a number of benefits over VPN-based solutions. Which we all know have this problem of broad access, not very granular, difficult to manage and deploy, and often a less than transparent user experience. So what does ZTNA bring to the table? Well, more flexibility and granularity, because each application can have policy that decides which users can access it and which devices and health state they need to be in. And you have just that much more granular app by app control over who can access what, which makes it a lot more secure. The other advantage is that this is completely frictionless and transparent to the end user. You have this agent running on your device that's aware of your identity, may ask you to use multi-factor authentication from time to time, and then knows the health of your device and shares that with the ZTNA gateway to enable your access. So there's no logging in, there's no certificates, there's none of this usability problem. And of course, the ultimate goal here is to provide better security, minimizing the ability for someone to move laterally to access stuff they're not able to access or shouldn't be able to access, and it just makes the network more secure. So what are we doing about it? All right, well, here you go. So Sophos is really taking this space seriously and investing heavily. We are bringing a ZTNA solution to market next year that will be a perfect complement to our endpoint and firewall solutions, and it will consist of 3 key components you see here. So first of all, Sophos Central plays a pivotal role as the control for all things ZTNA, as well as your management and reporting tools. But you will also author your ZTNA or your access policies in Sophos Central, and the clients will interwork or will be deployed from Sophos Central just like endpoint. So literally when you're deploying Intercept X, you can check a box whether you want ZTNA to go along for the ride. It is going to be that easy to deploy. So our existing endpoint customers will love it. Our new endpoint prospects will love it. It's all part and parcel with our endpoint deployment, the deployment of the client piece. And then on the other key component, of course, is the client itself. As I said, deployed along with the endpoint installer, and that will allow the agent to understand who is on that device, what the health status of the device is, and share that with the gateway, which is the third piece that is actually the protection that you put in front of your applications that determines who's allowed to access what based on policy set in Central, and use information coming from the client at the time they wish to connect to determine if they're allowed, and if so, what access they have. Of course, it will share data back with Sophos Central for event and reporting purposes. So it's really a 3-piece solution. You've got Sophos Central as your pivotal reporting management solution. You've got your clients that can deploy alongside Intercept X to add the ZTNA access, app access capability, and you've got your gateways that you will deploy near your applications to secure them and sort of verify and validate who's allowed access to what. And so when is all this coming? Well, the early access program is going to start in just a couple short months in January. And then we will be doing a couple of EAP phases before a planned GA around mid next year. And so here's the details of what's coming sort of when. So as I said, EAP in January, the launch in mid-year. Sophos Central will be, as I said, the pivotal management and reporting capability will all be there. Again, providing a nice story for managing all your IT security needs from Sophos Central, including ZTNA. You will have virtual gateways customers can deploy on their AWS and on-prem for VMware ESXi, allowing you to provide security for both use cases where customers have cloud-based apps and on-prem apps that need protection and access control. And it will integrate with customers' Azure AD solution for identity and later other solutions. Clientless in the first EAP with Windows and Mac, shortly to follow thereafter, and then mobile device client support down the road. And it will be licensed fairly simply, just like Endpoint, where it's licensed per user, and the ZTNA gateways that a company needs to protect its various assets will be free to deploy as many as they want and as many as they need. So very simple licensing, similar to Endpoint, deployed the similar way to Endpoint. It should be a natural and easy sales motion for all of our customers to get on board with ZTNA and hopefully solve some of their pains around this new networked environment that we're all working in these days. So of course, we will share more information on the Hub and Partner Portal as we get closer to EAP and in the days and weeks ahead. But that's what I wanted to share with you today. Why is this important and what are we bringing to market to help? So with that, hopefully Rob has been answering any questions as we've gone along. But Rob, do we have any questions that you want to share with everyone here at the end?
Yeah, I have a really good question. How do I see the questions? It's not the GoToMeeting control that I was able to see questions in the earlier session today doesn't seem to be there for me now.
Jack, we need to make Rob an organizer.
He is a panelist. Okay, give me one sec.
So we're going to be answering your questions live, as it turns out.
Provided I could.
Please, if you haven't already, type some questions into the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll start going through them now.
I still see me as a panelist.
Yep, you should be switched over now.
Okay, my views just started changing. Let me see if I can make this a little bit larger here so I can get, I don't know why the control is just not really working for me.
Do you want me to read some questions?
Yeah, go for it, because I literally see like half a line on this thing. I can't figure out how to make it larger.
If you click see the X next to the box, the one next to the X to the left, the little box will pop out the panel, so you'll be able to see it.
Oh, okay, now I see that. That makes it a lot easier. Can we get the slide deck? Sure. Nope. So this is a good question. What if a user logs on more than one device? That's not material for us. It's really just a user-based license. So it doesn't matter if they've got one device, 20 devices they want to access it. It's just per user pricing.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, so this is a fundamental question that Wyatt asked. Can you give us an example of ZTNA policy and illustrate how it's different than traditional networking? So, with traditional networking, you're essentially, you've got an IP address and you're on the network. You don't have really fine-grained controls, which then, you're pulling up some implicit levels of trust. ZTNA, you're never essentially on the network in the first place. So we've got essentially a proxy between you and that network. You're connecting to the Zero Trust gateway, not on the network, and you're getting explicit application access. So for example, you would access something like Jira or Hub or Wiki, as opposed to, I've got an IP address and now I can free roam around this network, so to speak. And also we can use the synchronized security health state as well as Windows Security Center to determine, your overall health state, and that'll gate whether or not an admin wants you to continue to have access to applications wherever they live. Let's see, there's a whole bunch, so I can't get through clearly all these in the next few minutes. I'm going to try to just focus on a couple I think might be generally beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, and we'll post the answers to the rest along with the recording. So don't worry if you've got a question that we can't answer right now.
Yeah, so just wanted to confirm the ZT gateways will be VMs, right? Yes, that's correct. We don't intend to launch hardware-based appliances around this because it's a cloud-managed, cloud-delivered solution. So the customers in this space, they will have infrastructure to run these on, whether it's they're obviously their own on-prem hypervisor or in the cloud like AWS or Google. So hardware is not a big thing here. And naturally, one of the following questions might be, well, what about running it on the firewall? Longer term, as we look to Project Palomo and containers on the firewall, we'd be in position once the firewall makes some changes to deploy a small gateway on the firewall itself for like SMP style deployments. Let's see here. There's probably, we'll have to just go through these individually. I'm not seeing anything that's just largely.
Okay.
The last one from Greg's probably a good one for the team though. So will this be included under any other products such as Intercept X, Advanced, when combined with Sophos XG firewalls? Great question. So ZTNA can be sold completely standalone. You can walk into any environment, so there's no requirement to have Sophos endpoint. There's no requirement to have Sophos firewall. It'll interoperate with any other endpoint software that the customer might have. So, for example, if they've got Symantec or Kaspersky, we'll be able to run there. If they've got a Fortinet firewall, we'll be able to run behind that. However, if the customer does want to use ZTNA in combination with Sophos endpoint, obviously we will support that, and we'll be able to use the synchronized security heartbeat to inform policy on whether or not the customer wants to continue to allow application access. Say, for example, if their device goes into to a red state. And the last one, just because this one keeps coming up, I'll touch on. Jason just mentioned the client could be deployed with our endpoint. So essentially, think of the same mechanisms that we have deploying the Sophos Central endpoint protection scheme today. When you go into Central, you see there's a, hey, deploy a Windows installer, and there's a checkbox for, do I want protection? Do I want mobile encryption? There'll be a new checkbox there for ZTNA. So all the familiar mechanisms you have in terms of how, the central software core agent gets deployed is being reused here. So I think we're just about out of time, Chris. I'll turn it back to you to get us wrapped up.
Yeah, okay, thanks. As I said, we'll post answers to all the questions along with the recording, and we will be, of course, equipping you with more information, sales plays, competitive info, and all that as we go forward towards the EAP and launch. So with that, thank you very much for your time, and Jack, I'll turn it over to you to wrap it up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for joining the call today. As Chris mentioned, you'll be able to grab this recording on the Sophos Hub for the internals, and our partners will be able to grab it right on the partner portal in the webinar section. If you do have any feedback or any more questions, drop us a line at globaltraining@sophos.com. We'll see you on another soft skills session. Enjoy your day, everyone.